How's everyone doing tonight? My name is Mackenzie Wilson. Alongside me, my partner in crime, Chris Noble, up in Panoka, Alberta. Chris, how you doing, my friend?
Very good, sir. How are you tonight?
Good, good. I am. You know what? I really value this time. We've got the time we get to talk in front of other landlords, so it's a bit of a new re-beginning, a new cadence to get back into this weekly shop talk ritual that we've been doing. So, yeah, I'm doing great. You know, this is awesome.
So we kind of had an idea tonight, like we'd like to bring guests on the show, but we also remember what our grassroots were to this is where we were taking questions off the page and questions live and talking about that stuff. And so we thought tonight we'd just kind of go back to some of that because it gets people engaged in what's going on and encouraging people to write in the middle of the show and get their questions. And we will take we'll go through the page because there's some great questions that's popped up even in the last couple hours. So we'll talk about them and tag that we talked about it on the show.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, let's hop right into it. You know, let's just cut right to the chase. This is going to be a hot, furious.
Mackenzie, you froze. So those of you who are watching, let us know where you are coming from, or watching from, and when Mackenzie unfreezes, we'll invite him back to the show. There he is.
Oh, hot dogs! Am I back? I don't have very good. I don't have very good. Okay.
Your kids are gaming, aren't they?
Or yeah, something's going on. My kid is on his iPad right now.
Okay, we will let you slip out and boot him off his iPad because you don't hear me talking. You keep talking over me because you're skipping. You're pixelating.
No. Okay, I'll update here.
So here's one. McCallum from Langley, BC. Must have some properties in Alberta. Yes, we do have some people from out of province that are a part of our team, our page. And we have a Facebook user. That's the problem when Facebook, you don't let them use your name on StreamYard. We don't always know who's watching. So maybe in the comments, put it in who you are, but welcome from Red Deer. And then we have Kyla. Love the show, guys. Thank you. We appreciate that. And she also likes our shoes. And somebody asked what I'm drinking. Just a little twisted tea. So you know what? While we're waiting for Mac to come back into the show, sit down, relax, and grab a drink, and get your keyboard warrior out and start typing in some questions. There you are, Mac. Anyway, I'm going to let Mac come and go as he wishes there. So the first question off the page, let's just see here. Carly Sue, she says, hey guys, can I ask what the average rate per square foot you've been paying to get a ceiling drywalled, mudded, taped these days in Edmonton? You know what? I do a lot of my own handiwork, and actually that's one of the things we'll probably talk about tonight is what I'm up to. I'm a big sweat equity guy, and one day I hope to be writing a check and let someone else do the work, but in the meantime, I do the work. I will tell you that the best thing for you to do is, Carlene, is go and get quotes, have guys come in. You'll have one guys that are right out to lunch on their prices, and it's because, you know what, they don't care if they get the job, but if you're willing to pay it, they'll do the job. And you have other guys that will do a good job, and they'll come in and do it for you, and you'll be happy with the work. Just remember, anybody who tells you that they need the money up front before doing it, you don't do that. Everybody, anything is always paid after they do the job. So they bring in the supplies, or if you want to go out and buy the supplies, that's fine. That's another option. You can have the mud and stuff. Just tell them, ask them to supply you with a shopping list.
Can you hear me?
One thing for me, oh yeah, I can hear you. I'm just talking up a storm about contractors. One of the things I did here tonight is I did need a building sided. One of the properties I have, I pulled all the old siding off the front, and it's stuccoed on the other three sides, but the face had an old style tin type siding. So I managed to come up with a deal on some siding that was left over from a job and topped it up with what I needed. And I fired out looking for some quotes. And the whole building is prepped, ready to go. You just have to put up the vinyl siding with the J channels and whatever. And I've done the work. I just don't have the time because I'm doing work on the inside. And Mac and I are going to talk about that later tonight. But here's an example of contractors. And if you want to get what's the going price, I said to the one guy, I put it out there. I sent him a picture of the house and I measured the house and he came back with a quote. Everything's supplied. All he has to do is bring his hammer and a couple ladders because it's not a difficult house to do. $1,200. And this is a day job. And it's 14 feet long and 12 feet high. And where he has to go up, he can handle it with a ladder because I know because I took it down with a ladder. And it's interesting that they would, I think that is typically a price. What I said is, I'll do it. I don't really want to do it, but if you're willing to pay it, I'll do it. And this is the price. Another guy called me up and he said, can I come have a look at it? And it turned out I kind of knew him. And I said, so you do siding? And he goes, absolutely. He has all the tools for it. We went up, we had a look at the house here. Actually, it was just about a half an hour ago in the dark. And we had a look at it. He said, yeah, he can do it Friday. And I said, well, what's your price? And he thought, what did you have in mind? I said, I don't know, $50 an hour. You got the equipment and everything else. He says, perfect. I like that. I said, day job? He says, absolutely. 8 hours. I should have it done 10 tops. So, all said and done, $500. So one guy's 1,200, one guy's 500. You got to shop around, and you don't pay people until the work's done. So, Carlene, if that helps you give you an idea, shop around and just make sure you're just remember it's your money. It's not their money to spend. It's your money. Mac, are you caught up?
I did listen to your story. I'm on my cell, so the audio is probably not as crisp, but I am in fact working at least, so I'll take it.
Sandra got on here and she says the sentences are repeating, so I'm not sure what that's about, but if anybody else is having that problem, let us know.
I need more internet is what I need, so I'll have to get that iced out for our next shows or something figured out here. But anyways, yeah, let's take some questions off the page, and we've got Christine's son Alan joining us, which Malcolm or his alias there. So pretty cool. Do you want to take a question first, or should I go with my one now that you kind of did your first story there, Chris?
Go ahead, Christine. Thanks for putting that up there. You have a contractor that works with you. I think that's great that you have that connection. So that's it's always nice to have that contractor that you can rely on. Matt, go ahead with what you got there, and then we'll dig into some other angles on the show here. So
yeah, I got a couple. So I get messaged probably once every 2 days with questions about landlording and all that good stuff. But you know what? I am guilty of this right now. I'm going to talk about it because it's pretty important right now. Is we're in fall freeze. So if you haven't done some timely fall inspections, perhaps turn off some outside faucets and drain them, and maybe do a furnace filter change. This would be a great time to do that before we get into the thick of sub-zero temperatures. So I have, you know what, being accountable right now, I'm going to say it out to a bunch of landlords. I'm going to go this week and I'm going to get my vents on my dryers cleaned out, because I know they do fill up and they can be a fire hazard if they get too clogged. I have to do that. Filters on both of my furnaces, and shut off my outside faucets, my water faucets. That's on my to-do list. Plus checking with my tenants and making sure everything is going quite well. Chris, I'm going to throw it over to you. Have you done your fall freeze inspection?
Well, my fall freeze, basically, my taps on the outside are all, they self-drain. For the ones that they turn off, they have that. You know what? I forget the technical.
Frost-free valves.
Frost-free. So they're that way, so I don't have to worry about that. So
okay.
Basically, tenants paying the water. If they want to let the water run, well, their bill's going to be a little higher. So
I'm more concerned about a frozen valve or a cracked pipe, and then you got spewing water, especially come spring. So, yeah.
my places are all in good shape in that sense. I'm pretty on top of that. Let's grab a question from Angus Ho. He says, does anyone have an RTDRS acceptable / customary and reasonable fee list made for things like cleaning per hour, re-rental fees, property manager call-out fees, NSFs, repairs per hour, and others that you may, and anything else you may think of?
So
what do you do, Mac?
There's two takes on this. We can get a generic one going that perhaps they give a starting point for some people. But if you are filing with RTDRS, you're going to want to get recent quotes showing current market rates to justify the numbers you use on your claim. If you don't have that supporting evidence, especially if it's not third party, that will probably cause some issues with your claim with the arbitrator and perhaps have it altered or even thrown out.
Yep.
But it would be good, and I know we've talked about this too on the page, it's a really good preamble to set the expectations with your tenant about the different costs to repair for items to encourage good behavior throughout your tenancy. Chris, do you do this?
Basically, I have a standard cleaning per hour. You know, you're cleaning, some of this is, I think, Angus, you must be meaning on this is that if you're doing the work. So, you know, $25 an hour is not unreasonable. Someone I know commented on here that the RTDS allows for $15 an hour. However, and like Rob Bonin got on there and he explained, if you can reasonably articulate what it was required to do the job, $25 an hour is not unreasonable. You start getting up 30, 35. But I know house cleaners are $35 an hour, but you know what? You better be a pretty damn good house cleaner, because $35 an hour, you better be flying.
Yeah.
Especially if I'm supplying the cleaners.
Totally. Or like so. And then, you know, devil's in the details. I've gotten some quotes when I had to do a move out when I used to rent up in Airdrie, and I did get quoted 45 and 50, but it was two people coming to the house to clean for the same hour. So you divide that number in half, you're back down to 20 or $25 an hour. But you know, that's not always clear. So probably a good thing to note too when you're detailing these charge items is the number of people working. This is again referring to clean for an example. So by having more of that supporting information.
Mm-hmm. Repairs, rental fees, re-rent fees. So I think a re-rent fee will fall into place when you have a breach of a contract. So some of this stuff you can pre-write into your contracts. I know Gord Heisler for Casa Capital has a great contract. Everything's listed on the back of his as to what the costs are going into it. Repairing holes in walls, they're going to be X amount of money. If you want re-rentals, he's got a grand list of things, and they're all reasonable costs, and it's all up front, and everybody knows ahead of time what they're dealing with. So, you know what, establish with yourself what's reasonable. And, you know, Angus, I think one of the comments in there you replied was that you're saying, well, it would be just easier for me to farm this out. Well, yeah, you could. And once you have a receipt from the contractor that you hired to do the specific job, then you're going to submit it. It depends on you. I'm a hands-on guy, so I go in there and I look after stuff because I want it done a certain way. The siding on the outside of this house that I was talking about earlier, I normally would do that, but I don't have time because I'm doing the inside. And sometimes you just have to bring your reality check as to what you can actually handle. And I don't have the time to do it. So it's cheaper for me to have someone come in and do it. Mm-hmm. So repairs per hour depends on what they are, whether they're flooring, walls, NSF checks, what's your bank charge you, and you may want to add another 10 or 20% on top of that for your handling fees, and you just call it administrative fees. Property manager call out. I help another guy out. He called me. He's up in Northwest Territories. I help him with his place. His tenant locked themselves out. I was busy doing something, but I had to drop everything I was doing. I showed up there, I unlocked the door, and I told him it's $20. It only took me a few minutes, but here's the thing from that, and this is my view. Some of you may have a different view, but please do comment. If you just show up because a tenant locked them out and you let them in and be done with it. How much care do you think they're going to put into whether they have their, or double checking whether they have their keys next time? Oh, I'll just call the landlord and they'll let me in. $20 right off the bat, boom. Now they're thinking, well, shit, it cost me $20 to get that guy to come over here to unlock the door. I think it's a little bit of an expensive lesson. We all have them. Maybe it's not so expensive, but I think that the peace of mind that you get out of it is important.
Mm.
What do you do if your tenant locks out, Mac?
So great questions. I don't like looking like my elementary or high school janitors with a bunch of keys on my hip. So I have key codes, door key codes in all my places. They are Schlumberger Deadbolt Connect is the model. It's also what is it? It's Zigweave or there's another protocol, but basically it can connect to a home automation system, so you can unlock or lock the doors remotely. I haven't engaged that feature on the rental properties. I do have that on my personal property. I find it's a really good lock. It works right down to -30 and beyond. Because the way the lock's built, it comes in two pieces. On the outside of the door where it's freezing is the keypad and probably some of the electronics, but more importantly, the batteries are on the inside of the door where it's warm, because it doesn't matter what type of lock you have, how well it's built. If the batteries are below -35, the lock won't operate because it's got no power, just because of physics. So that's what I do. And so with that setup, each of my tenants have their own personal door code. It's only for them. They don't share it with each other or anyone else. I mean, they can choose to share with friends, of course, but I only let them have it. So upstairs tenant code 1, downstairs tenant code 2. This is the same lock. And then I also have about 5 or 6 dummy codes programmed as well, temporary ones. And I've used this now a few times. It saved me a trip where I've had an emergency. I've had to send out a furnace guy or a hot water tank, so a plumber. And I just spin off one of my temporary codes. He goes and uses it. I don't compromise the security of any of my tenant's codes. And then when he's done, the next time I'm on the property, I delete that code and put a new random one in, and it's great. And also you can reprogram the programming code. So you get a unique number or code for each of these Solage locks where you enter this code, and that allows you to delete net codes. So I don't need a locksmith when I'm turning over tenants. And usually what I do when I turn over tenants, I'll put a new set of 4 AA batteries into the lock to keep it fresh. And I tell them from that point on, you're responsible for keeping the lock going throughout your tenancy. So I love it. I wouldn't go any other way. I've had really good experiences with Solage. The only time it's not worked, again, it's because I've had it in my garage where it wasn't insulated and it was -35 and the lock didn't work, but it warmed up to -20 the next day and the lock worked fine. It's just, again, it comes down to batteries can't operate that temperature.
Yeah, no, that's a great plan. Some people, I would imagine, are thinking, or what are the costs on these things? I think in the long run, you got to figure out what's the cost and what's your peace of mind worth, right?
Totally. And I can talk to that, Chris. That's a great point. So cost, right? So these locks sell on the high side, $250. And I've gotten them as low on sales, $169, $170, $180 around there. You know, one call to the site with a locksmith to get set up is at least $150, right? Just to roll a truck to site if they have to change over keys. Now you go like, well, so that cost, I kind of keep that in mind. So I just assume I get all these locks set up now, and it's just such smooth sailing. I can change the codes easily. They're very secure. And then I also, as a plan B, I have truthfully, I only have this at one of my sites. I have a copy of the key to the deadbolt in a lockbox on site that only I have access to as a plan B in case, because in this though, so in my one duplex, I have one entrance for both the upstairs and downstairs. And you've been here, Chris, because you helped me out with some plumbing. And then when you enter the house, you can go upstairs to the main unit, or you can go downstairs to the main unit. So that main door is the only way to get in the house. If the tenants aren't being diligent and swapping out the batteries, they can actually get locked out. So I do have a key on that site. But at my other property, the tenants have an access to the front door and back door. So there's an ability to, if one door happened to die, they can still use the other door and then swap out batteries. So.
Someone just asked on the page here, do you know the approximate time between battery changes? I don't know.
Yeah,
My
totally.
personal door has been 2 years.
So they would be the way I'm using them right now without them being wirelessly connected to home automation. That will save power. With tenant use, I'm probably getting around 2 years, maybe 2.5. But I'd say two 2 years conservatively, and then probably that one door where two tenants share would probably maybe be a bit less. But like I said, if I'm rolling over tenants, or even if like again fault freeze, I'm going over for inspection, I do carry a pack of batteries with me, and if I notice, because I've used the locks long enough, I can tell when they're sluggish or getting low on battery. I'll just for $8 or $10, I'll swap up a full set of brand new Duracell or Energizer, good batteries in there, and I know for sure I'm going to get again in around at least 2 years. I think I can go. I have to ask the tenants. I'm trying to remember. Well, from my house, on my personal experience, and they are connected to home automation because I can turn them on and off from my phone. I am also getting over 2 years. Actually, I'm getting past 2.5 years. So I'm going to say very conservatively, it's 2 years at least, but you can get quite a bit more than that. So
nice. Let's go down the list here a little bit further.
While you do that, I just want to tackle what Christine said. She said, back to us talking about our outdoor faucets and winterizing them. I have covers I put on the outside taps every year, even if they are frost free. And so I've talked to 3 plumbers on this now, and they just say, you know what, the frost free certainly helps. They say don't rely on it. Shut off the water from the inside. That's what I always hear from the plumbers. I've never seen covers. So Christine, if you share a link in the group, or I've never seen this before. So my ones, I have regular taps. I don't have the frost free ones like Chris does. I have I want to call it ball valve or a lever valve that I switch, and I have a bleeder screw on the other side. So I'll open up the taps from the outside, and obviously with already shutting off the water. So shut off the water, open the taps on the outside, come back down to the valve, and open up a bleeder valve, and it drains the water back through the line, so it's all empty going into the house where it's insulated. Then you for sure have no freezing problems.
Cool. Let's flip over to Alex John's question. I like this question. It was created a little bit of a discussion there. And are you ready, Mac?
Yeah.
Alex John says, and this was yesterday's post, it says, hey everyone, I'm looking for advice on a situation with my tenants. I've been renting my condo to a married couple since the start of the month, and today I received a text. The start of the month, so October 1st. Today I received a text from the husband saying the wife freaked out and moved out of the house and is refusing to return the keys. He says they're both on the lease and both looked like great tenants when I screened them. Has anyone dealt with a similar situation? Any advice on how to deal with this?
Okay, so I got to understand you, Chris. If I'm going to recap, a couple, so we have a landlord renting to a couple. They've moved in for some period of time. I don't know if they're new in the lease or
October 1st.
Oh, okay. So
I'll
so they're only not even a month in. Okay, and the wife does not like something. She's unhappy. She's moved out with the key, but the husband still lives at the rental.
Yeah, it says I received a text from the husband that the wife freaked out. This is word for word from the post, and there's nothing wrong with the post. I'm just saying it's and moved out of the house and is refusing to return the keys. They're both on the lease and both look like great tenants when they screened them. Have we got anybody dealt with this type of situation? So the husband's still living there, and she won't give him the keys back.
I don't even I think we need a little more context to the story. It's kind of tough to make a fair comment on what's going on. But
right. I'm going to tackle it then while you think about it. Here's my take on it. I'm taking it right at face value. The wife freaked out. She moved out. She took the keys, and he's staying there. And the landlord received a text saying, "What do I do?" My comment on there was this: do nothing. Is your rent being paid? You'll know on November 1st where you're at. Right now, don't get involved. Don't do anything. They're both on the lease. All you care about is November 1st and what happens on that day. If you don't get paid rent, you're going to issue an eviction notice in 14 days. And then from there, you're going to take your steps to deal with the situation. However, if the husband wants to rent the place because he's now come to, let's say he's paid the rent November 1st, and he says, okay, she's not coming back. No problem. You're missing. So what do you want to do? Do you want to leave the lease the way it is for now, or do you want to take all the responsibility yourself? He'll say, well, I'm not sure what to do. You protect yourself, because now you still got two people on it. You still got two people to tackle if there's a problem. So you say, let's leave it the way it is. Don't try to fix the problem. You're protected because your rent was paid. December 1st comes, he says, yeah, we split. She's staying. She's gone. I'm going to stay. Can I stay? You can say, absolutely. I just want you to fill out a new application and make sure that before I put it into your name that you qualify to rent here. And then so you take that new application, you update it, find out what all the particulars are. And if you want to switch it over into a single person lease, then you do that. And then you change the locks so he has a key. Because right now, there's no reason for you to change the locks. If you want to change the locks, it's at his expense, and you send her a message saying if she needs a key, you have one available. But you certainly would let him know that you had to give her a key because she's on the lease. So this is why I say don't get involved until you have to. As long as your rent's being paid, who cares? As long as your place isn't being wrecked, who cares? But you certainly stay in touch with what's going on. Stay out of the issue.
I think you laid out a really good game plan, Chris. I want to highlight the fact that of those steps you laid out, I would probably put that in an email, document it, send it over to the tenant, so they're very clear of their responsibilities of the tenant and their obligations being on the lease.
Mm-hmm. It's like, don't overthink this stuff. You're not in any jeopardy. You'll know November 2nd what your jeopardy is.
Yeah.
And you run your business, and you hand out paper. You make sure people understand where the bear does the business in the woods, right? So that's my take on that.
Okay, I got one. Well, you grab your next question. This one's I got two, but we'll go with the first one here. So got messaged, I don't know, it was probably 2 weeks ago now, or maybe it was 10 days ago. A tenant a landlord's having difficulties with a tenant. Not so much. The tenant is asking for 24-hour notice to enter the property, which is totally by law. It's what you need. But here's the catch. It's a suited property. So it's a house with a main floor and a basement unit. The basement unit is come vacant or is becoming vacant. So the landlord is setting up viewings to, of course, get a new renter into the basement suite. The upstairs main level tenant wants and has requested, actually on a few occasions to this landlord, they require to be notified in writing with the 24-hour notice as per the RTA. Now, the question is, does this landlord have to provide written notice to the main level tenant when the landlord comes on site, goes through the common area door at the back, to the common entrance into the basement suite, while not entering the landlord's main unit? Do they require to provide 24-hour written access as per the RTA? Chris.
Mac, you told me to look for another question. I didn't realize you were going to put me in the hot seat.
Oh, good point. Yeah, I'll answer this. So Chris is doing research. We've talked at length on this, and no, you do not need to give written 24-hour notice per the RTA to that tenant upstairs. Now, of course, it would be a courtesy if you know when you're coming by to let that tenant know. If you can at least do same day or whenever, or via text or email, I think that's just all power to you for better customer service. Absolutely do it. Now, the key thing here, and I looked this up in the RTA. I don't have it in front of me. I want to say it's section. I'm not going to even bullshit. It's in the RTA. There's a specific section that documents all the requirements, and it talks about the premise. And the premise is such a key definition. Since you have multiple units in the same building, you have two premises: the main level unit and, of course, the basement suite. And this is what this tenant is being a stickler on. So they came back to me, and the objection was, the tenant says, well, prove it to me. Show it to me where it's in the RTA. And I said to the landlord, I'm like, you know what? You reviewed the RTA. It's not in there. Go back into the tenant and say, you know what, tenant, I've I follow the RTA by the book. I'm a proper landlord. Position it how you want. I've reviewed the RTA and I do not see this information. Since you're concerned and maybe I've misread something, can you please tell me where you're seeing that I cannot enter the common area and go down and show the basement unit without providing you written 24-hour access? Throw it back at them, make them search and find it. And we know they can't find it because it doesn't exist. They may come back and say, well, yeah, here it is. You require 24-hour for the premise. And that's where you come back to them. Let's say, Mr. Tenant or Mrs. Tenant, you are the upstairs main level tenant. And I also have a basement tenant. And you don't have access to this basement unit as you would expect. The basement tenant does not have access to your personal unit. I will always, as a courtesy, if I can, give you as much notice as possible when I'm doing my viewings, but it is not a requirement. It is just a courtesy and just providing the best service I can. It's not a legal requirement that you're as you're stating that it is.
Agreed.
Yeah. So we got some questions coming in. Oh, that's you, Chris. Common areas is public access. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And that's the thing, right? You just got to clearly define that, and that's kind of what that tense is sticking on. So basement suite is the same thing as apartment building. Yeah, 100%, right?
Yeah, and
Eviction Services Inc. That's what I was thinking.
Edmonton Eviction Services, for those of you who don't know, that's Don Gray. He's on our page as an individual member, and so is Edmonton Eviction Services. Top-notch guy, and he is everyone's grandpa. He's got that big Santa Claus beard, and Don is a great guy, very knowledgeable man. So
yeah,
he comes as one of our preferred partners, and he is a wealth of knowledge, and he'll back you 100% as a landlord. And if you are wrong, he'll tell you, and he'll tell you how to fix it. So yeah, on that side of our business, we also have Rob Bonin he's out of Red Deer, and his eviction services down there. Rob's a very well-read individual, very knowledgeable. He's made some great changes and advancements in the program by communicating directly with the province in what's going on. And Don, you can't see that you're blushing right now because you've got a big gray beard. Sorry, people. He just put a comment up, so I got squirreled on that one. Anyway, back to Rob. You do want to get a hold of one of these guys, and Rob as well, because you get your documents in, it's money very well spent to either one of these guys, because they will represent you. They'll get it done right. They'll get it in, and they'll put your case in there, because sometimes you can get cornered by one of the hearing officers, and if you don't know how to answer the question, or you don't know how to stand up for yourself, you may find yourself on the losing end. Where these two gentlemen are in and out of there every day, and they will stand up for your rights and as a landlord. And if you're doing something wrong or could be considered a bit of a problem, they'll tweak it to make it work for you as best they can. So
absolutely. And and I'll take this note too, Chris. We had another partner that is no longer with us, but I'd still highly recommend them if you are in the Calgary area, and that would be Brad Longeaway with Servit. They're in Calgary. We did decide to part ways, which is fine. It's mutually ending, and I'll probably still have that gentleman on occasionally here and there as well. But again, just thought that'd be a good time to bring up that announcement why you may not see Brad so much on the page anymore. He's just wasn't active as he wanted to be online to justify partnering with us, which is totally understandable. So different practice. So we'll move on from there.
But on a side, just to add to that, Brad Longeaway does have Servit bailiff services. So you will be dealing with Brad through Rob and
Don.
Sorry, Don. Through Robin and Don, and they will get him in, and he will help with that. But my chats that I've had with Brad, the poor guy, he's such a kind individual that he doesn't have the time to have these long, drawn-out conversations. He's swamped doing stuff. He is big into the commercial end of things. So the only reason we bring up the point about parting ways is we still highly recommend him. However, he just won't be on the page as a partner, but we will quickly refer you to him when you're in a bind for something, for sure, because Brad
right. It just
runs a top-notch show there, and I do appreciate him, and he's a very kind and wonderful individual, just like the other two guys.
You know, and on that note, with what we've got, check out the page for people who have commented their experiences with each of the people that we've partnered with. And that's why we've chosen to go with them and keep them up, because they do good services that we believe in, and we have a our reputation tied to them by as we do by recommending them. So
Yeah.
there you go.
And there's Don saying that he worked with Brad just the other day, and there you go. Brad, top-notch individual, runs a great show.
Let's gear up. Let's go to another question. You got one lined up, Chris?
Yeah, just a comment here. Diana, out of she has some properties. She made a comment on here. Some of you, I'm just going to put this little plug in because it's a great thing here. Is she rents some? Okay, so this is for doctors doing their practicums, and she's looking. She wanted to put it out there. Does anybody has any properties in Canmore or out in the Banff area or whatever, and you rent them out? There's doctors that's paid by Alberta Health Services. They need places for doctors to go do the residencies and different things like that. So go through the page, find Diana Lars's post, and the comments on those kind of things, we turn them off right away because it takes up too much time and people get bombarded with updates. If you want some information, message Diana directly, and that's why comments are turned off. It's not that we don't support it. What we try to do is keep comments and notifications at bay for you guys as best we can, because it is overwhelming at sometimes, and we do find it as admins trying to keep on top of things. And I can only imagine for you guys, we want you interested in the page, so we try to dial back what's going on. So this whole Alberta Health Services thing, I know it's a good gig. I've dealt with other people that have been involved with it, and it's assured income, and something worth looking into if you got something going on there.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Let's see. Meredith, oh, this is a good one. Meredith Pauline. She's looking for recommendations of a good property management company that helps with, properly inventorying furnished suites, and looking for some that will manage in Edmonton. So somebody to manage properties in Edmonton. We haven't got a partner in Edmonton yet, a good management company. So we are looking for someone to partner with us. We do have Andrea Workington out of Red Deer. Yeah. And out of Calgary, your turf, who we got down there?
Oh, Calgary. Yeah, Brett Turner, both with Greenleaf Property Management and Redline Realty. So he's a great wealth of information. We will, you know what, I've been talking about that we're going to have a firmed up. He's doing monthly market updates for us, which is great for those of you that maybe the accidental landlord and you're looking for the right time to sell a property, or perhaps you're in a position and doing more of a strategic decision around getting your property offloaded. This would be a great segment to tune into. As well, he also brings it from they have probably, they're over 500. I'm not even going to guess how many doors they have under their management. They're well over 500. So he also brings in a perspective of more of a larger property management company, and just their take. They do take things a little bit differently than, say, from us as the smaller mom and pop landlords, but another great take as well on some great information. So I do have a question geared up, unless you've got one ready to go, Chris.
No, your turn. You okay. Go ahead.
Great. So I got contacted on the weekend here. I have investor friends of mine. They had a property. They're just doing turnover for November 1st. They had a great senior couple applying their property, looked really good. When it came to doing the credit check, they were using Single Key, which is also one of our partners on the page. They do a great service along with Neighborly. They get a very detailed credit report, among other things, and lots of good information on there. And I have a whole segment on how to read and validate that information that you in fact are getting from the landlord, or sorry, from the tenant's application is true. Anyways, the senior couple didn't feel comfortable giving out their SIN or driver's license number to have their identity verified to run this credit check report. And so he's like, and it was a couple, he wanted to do the credit score, and she was comfortable accepting the tenants as is. And so he asked for some more advice and perspective. So my take on that was, and I'm excited to hear yours as well, Chris, but you look at banks, you look at dealerships, you look at even car rentals, any of these things, they all collect key pieces of information, identify who you are. They will either take a deposit against your credit card as a financial security for collateral. But when we're giving keys to probably one of the most expensive assets that we own, that's at least $100,000 for most of what Alberta is, but we're probably talking 200, 300, 400,000 or more. I will always I will stick to my process, and I will always make sure I have a credit score that's been completed and is in an acceptable range. And I've asked questions to validate different points on it. So that, you know, the fact this couple sounds amazing, they could be great. Who knows? But they're not willing to provide that bit of information to give my security, that my comfort, that before I give them the keys to a $500,000 or $250,000 product or asset. There's enough tenants out there. Move on, carry on. It should be expected nowadays that this is common knowledge when you're renting a house, that you're going to have to do some proof of identity and financial a financial check or a credit background check to ensure that you've got the confidence to pay rent on time.
Right on. Yeah, no, agreed. That's a flag for sure. And if what was the gentleman's name that was on our show last night? That has the six system checklist there.
Oh yeah, Tom. More
yeah.
known on our Facebook page is FSC Stone. Yeah, he had a phenomenal system.
Yeah, and that's one of them right away. When someone doesn't want to properly identify themselves, some people come in with well, who are you to ask me that? Well, who I am, it's my property. Who are you not to get? If you're in that kind of power struggle, just step away from it. Sorry, yeah. You're not suitable. You'll find somebody else.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that too. So I had another, actually, she was a tenant of mine. She was renting out her house in Didsbury, and she had a turnover, and she was still at the time my tenant. She's no longer my tenant, but she was awesome. She's very good, young professional, worked really hard, just super awesome. So she was asking me a bunch of questions, and she put in a retired couple as well. He was a retired firefighter, and I can't remember what she was. She had an occupation as well. Anyways, first time these people have ever rented. What happened, long story short, so I mean, on the outset, looking at a stereotype, you might assume all retired couples that are financially sound, that have been homeowners, would be really good tenants. It's not always the case. There's definitely have to make sure the personality is a good mesh with you, because it's kind of like dating. You are entering a long-term relationship, and I know this is obviously a business relationship, but it's still got to be one that's got good communication and a willingness to work with each other. Long story short, with my tenant and her rental property out of town, the tenants ripped up carpet because they didn't like it and put in something new, and expected her to pay it as a landlord. So there's some contentious points there. And then they offered to buy it from her because she mentioned that she wanted to sell the property. And then they basically tried lowballing her and trying to get a deal out of her. And to be honest, they ended up being very difficult in the end to work with. It wasn't a good fit.
Yeah. Our other administrator, Trish Fraser, she wants you and I to remind people that please remind members when they invite someone to tell the invitee that they have to answer the questions to be accepted.
We're super strict on this point.
Yeah. Actually, we're considering, I put it out as a point of discussion amongst the 4 admins, and we'll be discussing it further, is that we may implement, because we're such a large group right now, is that you have to be validated by the member, and they have to send us an email, or a personal message to one of us validating who and why they're recommending somebody. I think we need to implement something, because this sounds funny, but we'll get a lot of overseas people that come in and all they do is go yes, 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 and their questions, and sometimes can't even spell yes right. So we try to keep the solicitation and the outsiders out as best we can for you. So we may be stepping up an extra level of security to help you guys out with keeping this landlord only as best that we can. All right,
yeah,
where are we at?
So I mean, I don't. We're still figuring it out. It's a discussion in progress. All I would say is I don't want to shut the door to landlords trying to get in if they don't know anything on the page. But we're going down a path of better validation, so you can be assured that we've got landlords and like-minded folks in the page, and because I want to keep the engagement, and we have a beautiful thing in this community with what you guys are willing to share. You guys are willing to take a vulnerable position and share a position that you've gotten yourself in, and in the, and we've got good feedback where we aren't being criticized. Mistakes do happen, but when you're in the situation, you need the good advice to get yourself out of it, and that's what we do. I'm super proud of this community because we do that very well as a community as a whole.
And the whole thing about you see on other pages, and again, I'm going to put this out tonight, is thanking the members that notified us a few weeks ago that saying that another page was commenting about our page having a list of bad renters. We don't maintain a list publicly on our page. There are members on our thanks, Mac. there are members on our page who are statistically driven and data driven, and they in themselves take the time to collect that data. So when you do put, hey, does anybody rent it to this person or that person, there are people on here that collect the data. Good for them. It's out there. It's out there anywhere you go, whether it's Googled or whatever means of technology you access. The information's out there, and the people that put the time in, I'm happy to have you a part of our page because other people appreciate you.
Yeah.
All right. You ready for the next question?
To wrap her up with, Chris?
Oh, what do you mean wrap it up? We still got 12 minutes to go. Jagger, he says, last night my tenant was taken away by the police for a psychiatric analyst.
Assessment?
Analyst, it says.
Okay, assessment.
She has a lot of mental health issues, and they suspect she may in fact be suicidal and can harm other people. So I'll just pause there, going back with my old hat. Those of you who don't know, I'm retired from policing for several years. So when a person is a danger to themselves or others, under the Mental Health Act, under Form 10, the police can arrest that person and take them in for an assessment. So that means the police Form 10 the person, took them in, and then the doctor will assess them at that point and then can certify them on a Form 1 under the Mental Health Act to be evaluated further in a mental health facility. So it's further to the question, says she was sharing the basement with 3 other people who are all on separate leases. She was bothering everyone in the house since she came 4 months ago and didn't pay this month's rent. Her stuff is still in the room. What can I do now to get rid of her? Should I file with the RTDRS? Interesting.
There's lots to unpack there.
This isn't really an RTDS RTA thing. It sounds more like a if the landlord is living there and it's a common household for everybody. This is a help me with the word.
Innkeepers Act.
Innkeepers Act. Sorry. Yes. Innkeepers Act.
Yeah. So, which is similar to what hotels operate under.
Yeah. Bill Biko, obviously, he's one of our resident experts in our community. He immediately tagged the Innkeepers Act under that question, and so there's some question whether it's Innkeepers Act. However, Innkeepers Act after 6 months no longer applies because of the Don. You can comment there since you're buzzing away here. I can see your questions coming up. But after what's the period of time where the Innkeepers Act doesn't apply? Because the person has to leave after a certain amount of time. Otherwise, it does fall under the Residential Tenancy Act. We'll wait for Don's post on that. So,
yeah, it can be difficult. I didn't know that should be maybe Chris. As we're just thinking here, it might be a future show, just a special feature and talking about the Innkeepers Act. Because to be truthful, I've skimmed through it, but I have not read it in detail. So it probably could be pretty advantageous, especially for those folks doing short-term rentals, which is not Airbnb, but there's people out there that rent by the week and rent room and board their houses. So a little bit different model. It's been around well before Airbnb, but those kind of tend to fall under the Innkeepers Act. There's also a bit of a caveat, whether that landlord lives in or not, or does not live in the property, does also affect how those rules are applied.
Here's another one from April. Says, what is the deadline for you for your current tenant to be out of a unit at the end of the month, noon on the last day of the month or noon on the first day of the month. You know, with all due respect, this is why we preach that you have to have a copy of your Residential Tenancy Act, and you have to know this stuff. That answer is in the Residential Tenancy Act. And I'm actually, quit putting that up there. I'm actually I'm not going to answer that question because you have to read that one. That is a grassroots knowledge for you. So
well, we can talk about. We'll give you the quick and dirty right now, but
well, you're going to be the kind one on this, eh?
This information's black and white in the RTA, and folks, it takes some time to learn how to end a lease properly if it's month to month. When a lease ends at the end of a month or on a day, if it's a year, it's the last day of that month. It's at noon, and there's a 24-hour turnover period, and then a new lease will start on noon on the first of the following month. But actually, no, that's typical, that's standard. It could be whatever you write in your lease. I should clarify that because I've actually started doing something I picked up through my lessons learned and through discussions with other landlords. I actually make my leases end about 3 days early on my fixed leases. So let's go simple here. January 1st it's a year lease, starts January 1st. Instead of ending on New Year's Eve, December 31st, or is that 30th? 31st. I'll have it end on like the 26th or something like that. I like to give myself 2 to 3 business days to get trades in, painters, cleaners, just to make a smoother transition so you're not stressing. Plus, like every other landlord in this province, and especially in the city and wherever your area is, everyone typically follows that pattern of ending on the last day of the month. So that last business day, it's going to be absolutely chaotic to book in certain things. Again, cleaners, for example. So if you can do a little bit of spacing, so the tenant loses 3 days. I also, if it works out well, I'll let my new tenant move in early too. So it kind of all balances out. But I have hard coded in my fixed term lease. I end it on the 26th to 27th, something like that, at the end of the month. Did you know that, Chris?
No, because I don't practice that, but certainly I'll have a discussion with you later to find out a little bit more about that. But you do, I can see where you can have some trouble there, because where does your tenant go?
You know what? There's friends' houses, there is Airbnb, there's hotels, there are RVs, there are numerous places that they can rest their head for a few days. People are always jigging between 2 properties, so it hasn't been a problem. I've had it on 3 leases now.
Well, that's good. I like that. I like that. It gives you some room. My current situation with one of my properties that we're working on right now, where at the beginning of the show I was talking about the the siding that was going on, because I'm working on the inside. Now, I kind of went against my own grain here of what I preach and promote on the page, but I chose to look at the silver lining in this, and that was that the place was left a little bit of unclean, and I probably should have called her out on it, but she was with me for 3 years, going on 4. She had children. It was the mom and 2 kids, handprints everywhere. The walls were dirty. Like, she washed it the best she could.
Yep.
I don't think she put the good effort in. I certainly could have kept her whole damage deposit with the cleaning problems. I deducted a door that was broken, amongst a few other things, and about $280 out of a $1,200 deposit, and gave her what was back because she was a single mom. But the silver lining in it is this: is I now I'm going in and I'm doing the rental that I've wanted to do, and this is where my sweat equity comes in. The cupboards are being painted properly with the proper paint, a good durable hard paint. The countertop, I know how to do that stuff, so I'm changing out the countertops, and the bathroom tub and the surround needed to be done as well as a new vanity. And I pre-planned all this because I knew eventually she was going to be leaving that year, because she kept mentioning it, and found stuff on sale. And so the new tub, new vanity, all that's going in at my labor, that's where my sweat equity is, and that's where I'll come out ahead later, and I can ask for more rent because the place has been updated, right? So
Absolutely.
yeah, so those are things to keep in mind. Sometimes, folks, when you're stressing over this and where do you get the time to do things? Yeah, I understand that, but you have to, maybe there's some time you have to put into it. I'm going to be going a whole month now without any income out of it. But again, that goes back to what I preach, is like, you got to have money in the bank just in case you have situations like this. So
Absolutely.
I'll probably be about a month and a half without income on this property, but in the end, I should be able to make up that income because I can ask more rent because it's now further up to date. So.
And you highlighted a really good point, Chris, that I like. I want to kind of riff on is you have a sleep at night fund, and it's so important. This business. Now, obviously, again, I understand there's a lot of accidental landlords that just they can't sell. Perhaps they're underwater, or they're in a situation where perhaps the rent's not even covering all of their costs. I mean, but you can't control everything. So I mean, I'm not specifically preaching to those folks, but I'm preaching to the intentional landlords on here that have gotten this business as an investment for the future. Is you got to have a sleep at night fund, reserve fund, an emergency fund, repair fund, whatever you want to call it, and having that money, knowing that you can take a couple months vacancy and not be stressed out, and to be able to do these repairs to keep your property in a very rentable condition and market competitive is so key. And on another note too, Chris, I had the very similar situation in terms of cleaning. So I had another tenant that just moved out. He was one of my best tenants. I absolutely loved him. He built a garden. He did some repairs. He replaced a broken lock and handle on the doors. I just sent the cost of hardware and a $20 Tim's card. There's no way I could have hired someone for $20 to do that repair. It was great. When he left the place, he was basically driving up to Edmonton from Calgary, and he had a 3.5 hour drive. He's actually west of Edmonton, and he was packing last minute still and cleaning as best he can, and he wasn't doing the best of job. And then at that same time, he ran late 2 to 3 hours when I was trying to move the new tenant in. So she was fine, she's no problem, but she wasn't really happy with the clean job. So you know what, I chose to give that tenant his full deposit back because I had him for 3 years. He paid rent a week early. It was never late. It was awesome. I had no stress or worries. And I looked at the cost. I think the cleaning was under $200. I think I got $180. She came in, e-transfer it. She cleaned the property. It was awesome. And I just look at that as the cost of doing business. And I have a great tenant relationship. And if he ever comes back to Calgary, I will have no problem bringing back to one of my properties. And my new tenant moved in. She saw that because she brought it, she's like, you know what, I would like it professionally clean, concerns with COVID and so on. Just a clean property is a nice thing to ask for. Absolutely. I mean, that's to be expected. So did that. She moved in happy, $180 out of my pocket. It was just the cost of doing a change of tenants. Perhaps in the future, I've been updating my documentation to be a little bit more with my expectations up front. But at the end of the day, he did go and shampoo the carpets and stuff too, and some of the bedrooms. So just something to talk about, I guess.
Well, let's give Trish Fraser and Cheryl McDougall the last words here. Trish brings up this excellent point. If you set aside 8% of your cash flow, you can have a vacancy for a month a year. So 8% that's $80 on 1,000. That's $960 over 12 months. So there you go. You're $40 short of your full rent. So do the math on that. That's a great point you bring up, Trish, and thank you for that. So set aside 8% into whatever. If you have to put it into a separate account, do that.
And that's different from your repair fund too. Those are two
that's
different
right.
things. It's a vacancy fund.
Right. And Cheryl McDougall, she says, we make sure we have enough in our rental account to carry us for 3 months at any given time because you just never know. Absolutely, Cheryl, that's great. And setting aside that 8%, if you've had a renter in there for 3 years, 3 years at 8%, you got your 3 months rent right there. So goes back to proper screening, proper relationship, proper development of your business.
Properties, yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? Set the money aside. If you have to open up a second business or bank account and you scoot that 8% over every month, then do that so that
you
out
of sight, out of mind. It makes the business so much easier.
Yeah. So there you go, folks. There's an hour of your life that we hope we well informed and we helped out where we could. We love the family aspect of us, and we appreciate everyone's input. Just a reminder to everybody, be kind to one another on the page. Be patient with some of the questions. And I know it gets frustrating seeing the same thing over and over again, but that's where, by having that positive input and directing people where they can look things up, is it's important. And then we keep people engaged, and then it stops the repeat of the questions, perhaps. So there you go. Any other input there, Mr. McKenzie?
No, that's it. We do have a bunch of some page sponsors, some partners we brought in to provide you guys discounts. There's a lot of time and energy that goes into running the site, a lot of volunteer work with our other administrators. I do take some of the proceeds that we get. Well, I do. I cycle a lot of the proceeds back into just running the group to make it better. Hence why we have this thing called a private network called Mighty Networks. It's a hosting service I've set up. Much as we all love Facebook, or maybe you don't. My opinion is kind of the latter. We have this whole other area. It's got categories. We have all of our discounts listed on there. We have the calendar. And it's just it's ability we can tag content and organize a bit better. Yes, you can tag on Facebook too, but we own the information, and it won't go away if Facebook changes to do something and changes their business model. We might be going away, or they might shut us down in a way that doesn't make us as functional as we are right now. So keep that in mind. And if you haven't joined Mighty Networks, please do so. It's Alberta Landlord Community.ca.
Right on. And if some of you like to join us on a show one night, if you have some different strategies and things, we'd love to have you on the show. Reach out to us. We'll see what we can plan. It gives us some things to look forward to going forward on the show. And we like to bring in some of our newer members and people just to have a good old chit chat like this. So we'll be reaching out to new people. I know one of my things here is I want to try to hit a whole bunch of provinces one night and bring in some experienced landlords, just so we can all just see how lucky we are in Alberta as compared to some of the other provinces. So wishing everybody a great night, and we'll see you next Wednesday.
Sounds good. Have a great one, everyone.